Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Holden's 11. We have a terrific guest tonight, and I can't wait to talk to her. Please welcome Laurie Calcaterra. Welcome, Laurie.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to see you. This is going to be a great show. We have a terrific topic. So let's launch right into it, shall we? Our topic this evening is post-apocalyptic films, something I know that you're passionate about.
Very much so. This is kind of like my realm. I live here.
Yeah, and now it'd be fair to say it influenced your work.
Oh, 100%. My comic book is a Western apocalypse. So you're going to see some Western, but very much all these movies that we're going to talk about in this list have some kind of influence in one way or another into my work.
Have some flavoring, if you will.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, let's jump right in. We're going to go to 2009 for our number 11. This is The Road. What's your thoughts on The Road?
That one was it was very realistic. Sometimes when we get apocalypse themes can be really real outlandish, and we'll see that in this list as well. The other extreme, but this one was very gray, very very realistic in my mind of what it would look like in an apocalypse that if it happened in this world. And again, those are always hard to watch when it involves kids, when kids are some of the main characters and they're either born into the apocalypse, they have no idea the difference, you know what I mean, from what it was before and what it is in that post-apocalyptic world. So that to me resonates, because I have kids and imagining them in that world is really difficult.
Yeah, and definitely one of the darker entries on this list.
Oh, yeah.
I was a fan of the book, too. Of course, that's by Cormac McCarthy. Kind of a surprise that he wrote that one. But it was the one that expanded my vocabulary, and I wish I did not know this word. But in the book, they use the word catamite, and I didn't know what that was, and I looked it up, and it's a child that's kept for sexual purposes.
Isn't that terrible?
The Road. Oh, damn you, The Road, for teaching me that word. So that kind of gives you a glimpse into the darkness of their universe.
Yes. Yeah.
I will tell you, I love Viggo Mortensen.
Yes.
I think that he's great in all the roles he was in. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but he really could carry the suffering of the post-apocalyptic family man, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, he tends to play these characters that we really get attached to. He's very good at empathizing, with the viewer, or we're good at empathizing with him, whatever his method is. He's got it down because pretty much everything. I mean, even when he was the Russian mob, I forget what movie that was called, but he was amazing in that one too.
He was also the guy. Were you talking about History of Violence, where he fought back against the hitmen from Chicago? That was another. That was another one based on a comic. It's called A History of Violence. He was a fellow who owned a diner, and this mafia came from New York City, and they were trying to rob the diner. And it turns out Viggo Mortensen has these crazy killer skills, and he takes out 4 mafia guys.
There was a History of Violence one where he actually was Russian mob, or I think he was undercover. He was an undercover cop, and he had he was getting initiated. And he had the tattoos and the stars and everything.
Okay, I think I know what you mean.
There was a crazy fight scene where he was buck naked in a sauna.
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, and it was really violent.
It was super violent, hyper realistic.
It was kind of like a John Wick level of violence.
That I think is even more stylized. The violence in that to me is almost fun because it's so choreographed and it's so expert skill that it's not normal. This fight in this sauna was very visceral. It was very.
Doesn't he break the guy's arm or something?
It was just
it's something like that.
It was hot and sweaty and it was everything that could go wrong in a fight, right? Because as a fighter, it's I want to be caught when I'm armed, when I'm aware, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it makes it scarier. Makes it scarier because they were in the sauna.
Naked. What are you gonna do?
Definitely a terrific actor. Yeah, he definitely carried the scene. I like big name actors. This next one, when we make these lists, it's not, as the viewers know from watching, it's not necessarily the best in the world. They're ones that we love and that we just kind of want to gas on about them. And what I picked for number 10, I wanted something, the list always has one really old one. So this is our really old one. And kind of what would be considered a big movie star. He's probably not well known anymore, but his name was Gregory Peck. And he was like the handsome leading man of these older movies.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about On the Beach from 1959. We talk about how these films influence our works. And in mine, I like to have little twists in the story. And in 1959, On the Beach was a movie. And the twist was, it was a submarine. It was an Australian submarine, and they were searching for signs of life after the apocalypse. And they were receiving a Morse code signal from America, from the San Francisco coast. So they're going all around the world trying to find the last survivors while these radioactive winds are circling and slowly snuffing everybody out. So they're racing against time to get there, and they go right, it's like, dee, 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 it's putting out a Morse code. And they get there and they go to check on it, and it's a freaking, the window is open and the wind is blowing, and there's a piece of string on it's like a Coke bottle is stuck there. And every time the Coke bottle moves, it dee 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 dee. And the message, of course, that there was no more civilization.
No.
On the beach, yeah. I love telling people, as we're going to talk about some of these films with Laurie, they're great ones. So if you haven't seen them, please go check them out.
That's one that I have not seen. So it's definitely on my list. Because all the rest of these that you have on this list that we talked about are amazing. So if I haven't seen it and it's on this list, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's jump on to the next one, because I know you have some thoughts on this one. This is our number 9, A Quiet Place. Now this one has 2 movies. I didn't see the second one yet.
It was okay. Again, it's like, it's anything that starts out as a great concept and then Hollywood kind of gets their meat hooks in it. Where I don't think there was intended to be a sequel, but the movie was received so well that they were like, we're going to do a sequel. I think what actually happened is that they told John Krasinski there's going to be a sequel. And he was like, well, I didn't write one. And they were like, you either write it or we're going to find someone else to write it. They'll have
somebody do it, right? And he wrote and directed and starred in it.
Yeah. So he's like, I guess I'm writing it. And he's like, I didn't intend. Like he had his character. If you haven't seen this, huge spoiler alert, he dies in the first one.
Actually, I'd forgotten that. And it's okay, because we're past the limitations on
I was going to say, it's from what year? What year is that from?
Actually, that's 2018.
Okay. So again, it's like, it's been a while, so it's okay that we're spoiling.
Right. And these aren't exactly new films. Hey, and sometimes we like to talk about the endings. Like we talk about the endings of movies all the time. So maybe this isn't a spoiler safe place, but it is a place where you'll hear about cool stuff that you didn't see, and we think you should go check it out. This next
movie was so interesting though, because they took out that it was like sound that was the enemy, and they had kids again with the kids, and it's like she was pregnant and
she had to give birth in the bathtub
while the aliens were outside. It was just unreal, like, how do you be quiet through birth? A
little bit of a tough call for an apocalyptic list, because I was going to say things like, well, there's always a set of rules for the movies, right? Well, I have to be in this one, because otherwise you soon get these mammoth lists. And in this case, I thought, well, we should have some kind of apocalyptic setting, like a view of a city or something like that. But then I was like, I want to have some sci-fi in there. I do want to have some zombies. So in this case, we went with the stuff that influenced our work a little bit more. And I do have some influences from things like A Quiet Place, in the sense that we have the mutated insects. Do you have anything like that in your stories?
I don't have mutated things. I have undead things. So they've been around for a while, and they're rotten and they're angry because their brain is decayed. So yeah.
America loves zombies again and again. It's true.
I love zombies.
One of the best post-apocalyptic films, I thought, of the last probably 20 years is our number 8, The Book of Eli. I love everything about this film. Excuse me. I love Denzel. I love how they use it's sort of like a washed out black and white color palette. It's not quite black and white, but you know what I'm saying. What's your thoughts on Book of Eli?
Great concept that the sun got brighter. What exactly caused that? I don't remember. It was the sun is brighter.
Yeah, it was something like that. And they didn't have water also. That was one of their things. They had impure water.
Right, because the sun was hotter. So like they had water issues. They had lots of blindness because people were too sensitive to the sun and were going blind. And so there was a loss of civilization, and he's trying to take a Bible to a
Right,
place,
right.
and he has this calling, but he's still a vicious fighter and killer.
And you never really know, like, is he in the hand of God or is he just a great fighter? It doesn't ever actually say it in so many
How
words,
many
you know?
times was he walking away and some dude was just shooting at him and missed a bunch of times? So it's
It
like
does seem, I took it like he was being protected by
something.
something.
You never know. But
Yeah.
the like I was saying, the fights are just immaculate. Like I think it's my teacher actually knows the guy that choreographed that.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of sword fighting and like machetes and
Right.
so all like the hand-to-hand combat was really good. It was Filipino martial arts. The guns, the dystopia. There's a lot of famous people on that one as well.
Yeah,
Like it
got
was
to
just
mention
really
Gary
well
Oldman
done.
as the mayor of, or whatever it
Gary
was, of the town.
Oldman
Yeah,
and
he's
what was
always
the girl's
great.
name?
Oh, she's Mila
Uh
Kunis.
yes, thank you. I was
Yeah.
like, I could see her face. Um, even like that old couple that was that were cannibals, they were famous
Yeah.
too.
And remember, they would do the thing where you hold out your hands, and one of the ways they would tell if you had eaten human flesh,
Too much
your hands
iron.
would shake. That's pretty wild.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But it's like you didn't realize that he couldn't see either until the very end. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah,
And then you have to
exactly.
go back and rewatch the movie to see, was he looking at stuff, or did he actually, was he blind and he was hearing people move? Like it, and that fight scene where he goes under the bridge into the darkness made much more sense, and was like, oh, he's taking them into where he has an advantage they can't see. Mm-hmm.
I do like stories and movies that have an element of faith, not only supernatural types of faith things, but other things too. I think it's a interesting story element. I'm not a particularly religious fella, full disclosure,
Right.
but I do find that stuff interesting. And it's almost like sometimes people try to write it out of the stories, but when you see it, it's like, oh, it makes it a little more interesting to me. It's more believable because there's always somebody like that in a group.
Right. That's very much my story as well. My cowboy Jude is like on this impossible mission. I pull that a lot from anime as well, where it's always like the normal guy who is just determined to fix the problem or solve a thing or defeat the bad guy, and he really doesn't have any extraordinary skills. He has some skills, but not compared to a lot of people in this world. He's just a dude, you know what I mean? But he
Mhm.
has this determination and something that's driving him. And there is a lot of that supernatural element in the world. Once we get a little farther, it'll become much more evident. Right now, we're still in kind of the world building mode in the first few issues, so you can see how terrible things are and once they fall apart. But once we get to know Jude, then it's like, okay, now I can start introducing the weird and the other. And that's when it starts to come out.
It sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will keep cooking along here. I tell you, when we
Yeah.
talk about
What's next?
apocalyptic movies, there's so many good ones, and there's so many movies that have become franchises, right? So, in
Yeah.
some of them, we can talk about them sort of generally in the open world, which our number 7 is Planet of the Apes, which has been remade a bunch of times to a bunch of good ones even. Did you see the most
Yeah.
recent ones?
I think I saw the first, is there 3 of the
There's
new ones?
3 now. I think either
I
3
want
or
to say
4.
I
I think
saw
I'm missing one too, but
2 at least. The first one they redid was amazing. And that was just, resetting the world. And again, it had that twist at the end. It was very
right.
good.
I
So
love
it
I
kind of
love
mimicked the
uh I
old
love
ones.
twist endings.
Yeah, I do too. But again, it's like it's a different concept than the rest of them, where it's like, yeah, we're in apocalypse, but now we're not the dominant species anymore. Ooh, what do you do? And then you find out, oh my God, it's really Earth, and all the humans had either been killed off or kept as pets.
That's
So,
good
and
stuff,
what a
man.
great
Good stuff.
concept, and that's
Yeah,
why it keeps coming back.
there was a middle series too, it was the Tim
Really?
Burton. There's a Tim
Maybe
Burton
that's
Planet
the
of
one
the
I'm talking
Apes
about. Was that the
novel.
one with Mark Wahlberg?
One has Mark Wahlberg, right?
Yeah, that one. And then the one after that, where it was, who was the main character in that one?
Well, I was thinking of the one with James Franco, where he invents like a serum to reverse Alzheimer's.
That's
And
right.
he tests, well, the serum does 2 things. It makes apes intelligent, and it makes humans catch
People
the plague.
stupid.
Yeah. So, and then remember, it gets to the very end of that movie. And by the way, That one is one of my favorites, and here's why.
Yeah.
The ending of it, it just shows the people starting to cough. It doesn't show
Yes.
the apocalypse happen, but you used to go, wait a minute, this is why the humans were weak enough that only slightly smarter apes could take over.
Right, exactly, because they're all dying off from this pandemic. And that was Andy Circus, I want to say.
Right. Yep.
That
Andy
played
Serkis.
the
Caesar.
Caesar.
Yeah. Maybe the
Just
best.
such amazing.
Yeah, and maybe the best version, right? Like I love the old ones. They're terrific, and they were the original ones. But those newer ones were they were kick-ass films.
They were. Like that fight scene on the bridge.
Yeah.
It was really good. And there was like an orangutan and a gorilla and a bunch of apes, and Caesar was there, and it was a good tense moment. And it shows you like
an
how
awful lot of
CGI.
An awful lot of CGI in that film, and well done and well acted and stuff.
Right.
Man, I always prefer when there's some non-CGI, some practical effects.
I do too. Like there's got to be some kind of practical effects to kind of ground it. Otherwise you can get taken out of the film because CGI, even though how good it is, it's still not 100% believable, in my opinion. So it for me, I kind of drop out of the fantasy if it's too much CGI.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, well, we're going to stick with our sci-fi theme, right? This is our number 6. And there's actually 2 that would fit in this slot. But I have it marked as number 6, Oblivion. That's the Tom Cruise movie where they're fighting against, it's basically like an alien intelligence, I guess you'd say.
Right.
And there's some twists and turns in that one. Like I say, that's you kind of have to watch it, but it turns out that the one they think they're working for is the alien intelligence, and it's all a big twist at the end. And
I love it when the twist is the guy that you're rooting for is actually the bad guy, and they had no clue.
Right.
That's hard to write. That's hard to write, people.
Sure.
It's great though.
Yeah, I that's an influence on me as well. I do a lot of stories where you find out that the leading character was the bad guy at the end, or at least displaying questionable tactics.
Yeah. I have a series where that is the case as well, but it's not this one. I wrote a spy drama called The Agency, which is I wrote it as web content. I have about 12 issues of that done. So maybe someday we'll see that as a comic book. Who knows?
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, it's like you're questioning who is on what side, because it's like first you think you know what's going on, and then there's a traitor, but then who's really the bad guy? Is it the traitor or is it the good guy?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love stories like that. We sort of got bumped into a sci-fi category here with our apocalyptic films.
I'm okay with this.
And now number 5 is another old one, but there's so many people that sort of rag on it and sort of like do the lines from it. I kind of wanted to include it. This is Soylent Green. It
has
Charlton
influenced
Heston.
other things in this list, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. The thing I remember about Soylent Green, of course, everybody remembers that it's made of people, right? That's the part we all know. But the other thing is, remember they had the suicide booth. You could go into it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like Futurama. It would play all your memories out of your life, and you could kill yourself while you were in there. And actually, you kind of had to when you got to a certain age. Wasn't that the deal? It was something like that.
I think that was Logan's Run. Oh, but that's not on this list, but that's another great one.
Yeah, we got to talk about Logan's Run too.
Logan's
Run. Yeah, I'm a huge Logan's Run. He's always makes the list of the coolest robots because he has Box. Remember Box from Logan's Run? He has all these great lines, and he's like hyper inflated sense of importance. This robot.
That movie was so ahead of its time. They should redo it. Honestly.
Well, and there was a TV series, right? There was the movie was great, and then the TV series flopped. I think it went to like 6 episodes or something.
Oh, that's too bad. I don't think I even caught it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've ever seen it either, but I'm aware that there is one. And they wear the same costumes, and the designs of Logan's Run really, really sell the 70s sci-fi. It's one of my favorite.
Update it for Pete's sake.
Well, how about so we're both fans of Soylent Green, obviously. That's like a classic that goes on anyways.
Yeah.
But we had both been talking, and mostly talking about things that influenced our work. And we kept coming back to Mad Max Fury Road. Yes,
this is a big influence of mine. This is that one I was talking about earlier. That's compared to The Road, this one's very out there. This is the opposite, where most of the Mad Max's have been, extreme, but Fury Road just took it and ran with it. Just like the cars themselves, the war rig, the society having no water.
Some of them were like painted and they were tribalistic.
Yeah, like Half-Life because of radiation. And
right.
There's just so much good stuff you can pull out of this. What I love the most about this series, which had very much influenced my work, is how they handled the big fights. It's the scenery where the fights are happening that make them memorable. That giant sand tornado, we will never forget that giant sand tornado. Right?
Right.
So it's like, it's the scenery behind what's actually happening is what also adds to the fight.
And very well directed too. I forget the
Oh,
director's name right now. I don't have it in the notes. I'll put it in the editing screen. But
Okay.
he was
We'll
known
edit
for
that
sort of
in.
I can do that. I can add the words in the scroll underneath of us pretty easily. So, but yeah, he had done a couple of these sort of very quick cut, frenetic action sequences, and you really get that in Mad Max. And it's got the guy with the flaming guitar and the jumping between the vehicles and close-ups of the exhaust and the spinning wheels. It's almost kind of Grindhouse in a way.
I forget who the director is, but his I do know this is that his wife was the head of cinematography. And he said, like, we've heard 1,000,001 apocalypse stories, but we've never seen them from the point of view of a woman behind the camera.
Right. Sure.
So she was the one that put all that together. And it's like that insane guitar guy with the flaming guitar on the bungee cords. That was her. I don't know. That's just
great stuff, man. Great stuff. I'm a huge fan. Sticking
huge
with
fan of that movie. I can watch that one on repeat.
Yeah, and I do. I'm a female character person too.
Mm-hmm.
So I got that thematically in common with them.
Yeah.
Keeping with the modern films, and this one is a little bit of a thinking person's film. I'm talking about number 3, Snowpiercer.
Oh, you switched that one to 3? It says 3 is Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, I have Dawn of the Dead. Let's do 3 as Snowpiercer first. Okay. Then Dawn of the Dead's after him.
Okay. And see.
So Snowpiercer has a little bit of a cultural class struggle element. Well, a pretty large element.
Yeah.
And it also, best of all, it has Captain America is in it.
Oh yeah, that is Chris Evans. Yeah. I forgot that was him. There's a ton of people in this movie too. Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
The guy that's from Billy Elliot.
Ed Harris is the
guy at the end. And there's more people. I forget them all, but there's a ton. But I just love it's that class struggle. It's the end of the world, and the elite have, the only people that can afford to escape. And then there's the people that kind of climb on the back of the train to survive, and how they're treated. And you find out what they're eating, which is very much like Soylent Green. It's not people, but it's gross. And just like going
bugs,
through,
right? They were making
it was a bunch of bugs. It was basically cockroaches. They just ground them up and turned them into like green jello, and that's what they were eating, or was these like protein disgusting
like those bricks. Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, they were eating each other at some point. So
yeah, and it was super cold outside too. Remember, they had the part where the guy was sticking his arm. It was a punishment for something, and he put his arm outside the window, and then they pulled it back in, and we shattered it because it was so cold. Yeah,
that was gross, but it was so good. Like,
yeah, and I'm a fan
just part of that world,
Well, and you don't see a lot of polar cataclysms,
right? They made a TV show on AMC based off of Snowpiercer, and it was very good. I watched, I think, up until a certain second part of the second season, because that's all I could get to for free.
Right. Yeah, good stuff.
But it was really good. It was kind of like it was on a Snowpiercer, but there was a murder, and they were investigating the murder. And there was a guy in the tail that used to be a homicide detective, and they knew to go find him to help, so he was the one helping. But there was that class struggle between him and the people that wanted to solve the murder. And then he got to go to all the other parts of the train, kind of free access, but there's consequences. So that was pretty good. Then you found out there was more than one Snowpiercer. Dun dun dun.
Oh, no kidding. And what's this on?
Yeah. It was on AMC. And then at the very end, you find out that the second train has Sean Bean on it. And you're like, no.
Oh, no way. Okay. Well, I'll definitely check that out. And I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that.
Jennifer Connelly is in it.
Oh, wow.
I
So you
forget
got some
the main actor.
you got
I've seen him in
some
other
names.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Okay,
Sean Bean
Laurie,
doesn't show up until the end. So
I mixed up the order. I mixed up the order here, but I do have both of these on the list, right? And maybe number 2 is a better spot for this entry because when you talk about the apocalypse, so many people's minds go right to, hey, it's a zombie apocalypse, right? So we're going to have a couple entries under the umbrella of number 2 here, which is Dawn of the Dead, 2004. And here's why I picked it. Because first of all, I love so many of these kinds of movies. It's enough for its own list. And maybe we'll do that one. We'll do that one for our next one.
I'll come back.
But in this case, it has the opening where they encapsulate all how the apocalypse happened in like a 4-minute stretch. And it starts with the girl biting the father, and she runs outside, hit by the car, and the explosion. And it's all like, that's your opening montage, right? So that's why I picked it.
Oh, that movie basically brought fast-moving zombies into our lives, right? Because we had slow-moving zombies. We've had, like other people that are not zombie, but infected that were fast-moving. But these were fast-moving zombies. And they actually cast amputees. So people that were missing arms and people that were missing legs to play some of these zombies. And it was terrifying because the special effects were so spot on because like you don't have to green screen it. It was practical. So the fast moving zombies, there was the dude across the street they couldn't get to, you know what I mean? So there was that whole thing of being separated from the group. There was kids, like the whole opening, like you said, was just amazing with this little girl.
Yeah, one of my favorite openings.
What a heart wrencher.
And, it's funny because some movies will take, 2 hours to play out all the elements of what happened. Yeah. But I'm telling you, if you watch the first 5 minutes of Dawn of the Dead, they explain it in the best possible way.
And then it's just like, you have to like pause almost and be like, like take a breather before you keep going.
That's the Zack Snyder version, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a fan of his. He's got his detractors as well, but I think he's a hell of a director, and I love that version.
He did that new one called Army of the Dead, where they were doing a bank heist in a zombie-infested area. That was not too long ago.
Yeah. I think that was on Netflix. I think I did see that one.
Yeah, that was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Wasn't the same, but it was good.
Well, and I lean directly into, I guess, what I would call the classic zombie movies. And Laurie, by the way, I'm going to save this because this will be our next topic that you and I we could probably nail this one. But it would be things like the original black and white Night of the Living Deads, then go right to the Dawn of the Deads, Day of the Deads, and then we would go to some of the things like, are you a 28 Days Later person?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
Me too. Okay. Right. So in other words, you could almost have a whole list based on just that. So that'll be volume 2 will be apocalyptic zombie films, right?
Zombies. There's zombies and like Marvel zombies. There's
I love those too, by the way.
Like Train to Busan, and we could just there's so many good ones. So many good ones.
Yeah. These are all classics. So that's why I had number 2 on there. I wanted it high up on the list because I knew that everybody loves zombies and it had to be on our minds. But for the number 1, I wanted something that was kind of well known to everybody, right? That had like a big movie star and also was based on several versions of my favorite movies and my favorite novel, which is 2007, I Am Legend. That's
amazing.
Will Smith.
Amazing. And again, with all the feels, like, I love how they filmed it and it was non-linear. So you're seeing him. And again, this is very much influential to me because my story is also non-linear. Yeah. You see our character in the heat of the apocalypse when we first meet him and how terrible the world is. And now we're going back into the past and we get to see how it falls apart. So that's the story too, which I love, where it's like you see this grizzled old guy and he's talking to this dog named Sam, who is actually Samantha, and you get these clues of what's happening. You see his family, but you don't know where they are. you know, and the book was more less zombie and more almost vampire.
They were vampires, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But they
there were
weren't.
two movies too that were based
Yes.
on. There was the one from the 50s was called The Last Man on Earth, and it's fully vampires, really. And that's Vincent Price, which if you love Vincent Price, man,
Oh, you
believe it
gotta
or
love
not, he's
Vincent
in
Price.
that movie, right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
he's also Charlton Heston, who's big star of Planet of the Apes at the time. He had the other sci-fi movies, which were Soylent Green, and then Omega Man, which was
another good one.
Yeah, the retelling of this story, but they were mutants instead of zombies, right? They were nuclear mutants as well. So each version, the monsters were changed a little bit.
And it's interesting because it mimics the time of the things we're afraid of. You know what I mean? Like back the first one, it was very much like classic monsters, Frankenstein, you know, werewolf and Dracula, you know what I mean? That's what was popular. And then of course we went to the nuclear age, right? So now we're all afraid of radiation and mutation and that. And then to the new one with Will Smith, it was more about like pandemic and virus.
Yep, totally.
So it very much is a peek into the fears of the culture at that time. So that's one of the reasons I love horror and apocalypse, because it's a peek into the things that we are afraid of as we're going through time.
You know, really cool. I'll tell you, we love to talk about our writing projects. I'll tell you something that you'll find funny. When we wrote the first draft for Water Wars, one of the elements was, of course, this pandemic, and the people are wearing the masks and stuff. And we had to take out like 8 pages worth, because when it really happened, all of a sudden it wasn't scary anymore. As a matter of fact, it seemed kind of stupid to have it in the comic. I'm wearing one to go to the grocery store. How scary is it to watch her wearing it? You know what I mean? So there is a pandemic, but all that stuff was taken out. It was just too on the nose.
Isn't that weird? It's like when you write something and then it happens, but then people think you are mimicking real life when in fact you wrote it before things happened. A lot of my stuff will mimic the riots and the unrest that we were going through in 2020, but I wrote it in 2018.
Oh, no kidding?
That's
interesting.
Yeah. And as things were unfolding in 2020, my sister, who has read the script, would call me. Stop writing, please, because it's happening and we don't want it to go any farther. And I was like, okay.
You know, it's interesting to me how for the I Am Legend has these 3 killer versions, right? And they all kind of stood the test of time. Like you mentioned, how each one is really a product of its age, especially the one from the 50s, right?
Right.
But I mean, here it is, 2023, we're still talking about it. So
all the good ones we do, right? All the good ones come back again and again and again. Planet of the Apes again and again and again. Zombies, you know, the Day of the Dead, all the Romero titles again and again and again. Even though it's not one of my favorites, Resident Evil again and again and again.
Oh, sure,
we see these things because it resonates with us, you know, over time, and we just adjust it to the new fears
right
of the society. And it's interesting that, you know, the concept could be molded to what's happening now and still be relevant.
Well, and speaking of new fears, right? The new things that are being made. So right now you have your Kickstarter is live for Path of the Pale Rider. What can you tell us about this campaign?
So we are on issue number 3 of this series, and Path of the Pale Rider is a world where death has been broken. So we kind of take a little bit of a few different genres that we've talked about. One that we didn't talk about, though, is Westerns. So I grew up watching Westerns with my dad, specifically spaghetti Westerns, and Clint Eastwood was his favorite. So you're going to see some of that.
Yeah,
right?
This sounds terrific already.
Yeah, and then you add in sci-fi. So a lot of like Soylent Greens and other ones, Snowpiercer, Book of Eli, you know, on this list, very much an influence. And then, of course, zombies. So this world where death is broken, your body can die, Tim, but your soul or your consciousness, it doesn't leave your body upon death. So you're stuck in it. So you're still you. You don't become this mindless, brain-eating, autonomous creature. It's much worse because you're still you still feel like yourself, but you're slowly going crazy because your brain is literally rotting in your skull. So forgetfulness, violence, indifference, It hits everybody differently. And it's people, animals, insects, fish, nothing can die correctly anymore. So it just creates a whole gamut of problems. So like on the road where they're having trouble finding food, that's this world. You know, there's food shortages, water shortages. We have all sorts of crazy people because nobody knows what broke death. So you have all these different factions. So there's people that think it's a virus, people that think it's the rapture, aliens, government conspiracy. You're going to see all of that.
I think you got a great concept here, and I certainly wish you every success with it. I'm going to share some of the cover images for the viewers at home. Can you give us a little bit of a shout out to your creative crew?
Yes. So my interior artist, his name is Marco DeFillo. He has been with me since 2022. We met in January, and I had a couple artists involved prior to him, and they just weren't a good fit. It didn't match. But Marco's style really matches. He loves apocalypse and sci-fi and anime. So we hit it off immediately. So he's been doing the interiors since the drop, right? Since we published. So he always does the A cover, all the interiors, pencils, inks. Issue number 2, he also did color. He can do everything himself, which is amazing. One of the best compliments that we received about his art is that you could technically take all the words out of the story and still understand completely what's going on just by his art.
That's a great compliment. That is something we all strive for with
right.
So much lore. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. For issue 3, we brought on a colorist. Her name is Marta Gasparoni. Wonderful work. Not that Marco can't color. We just wanted to go a little quicker. Marco is very busy these days. He does my book. He does another book called Mauka that is another apocalypse based in Hawaii, which is really interesting. He does this other series that's more of like fantasy based off of like I don't know what you call it, like older books. Like he did one about Alice in Wonderland where they took it and they spun it on its head. So like stuff like grim stories, stuff like that, like old fairy tales and folklore. He does a series for Ember Press. And then he does commissions as well. So he's so busy. I was like, let's go faster. We're going to bring on a colorist. So,
well, the work and then I letter. Terrific. Oh, you do the lettering?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Hooray.
Interesting. Okay.
I letter.
I'm going to show the images to the viewers, and the project looks terrific, Laurie.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you, we talked about some of these great films, and generally speaking, I think the type of customer that would like those films would like your work and probably would like my work as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what type of customer you think will love Path of the Pale Rider?
Oh, okay. So a few different kinds will like my story. The ones that really like, of course, the sci-fi, the Western, the apocalypse. People that love Easter eggs will love this, because we also do things in addition to the comic book for people to participate in. So we do on the back cover.
Tell us a little bit about these.
Can I?
Yeah, we talked about this on the air the other night, but like I say, this is recorded. So we're probably reaching some viewers that have not heard about this cool element of your book. So if you could walk us through that.
Okay, yeah. So on the back cover of every issue, I create a riddle, and the riddle will take you to someplace in the real world. So like issue number 1, when you solve that riddle, there's a group that you get sent to if you can find it. Issue number 2, if you solve that riddle, you have interaction with one of my characters like they're here in the real world. We have all sorts of stuff planned. Phone numbers to call, hidden YouTube videos, websites to hack. We're planning on doing an old radio show type podcast where you just listen to the content. We have all sorts of things where you get to like go down the rabbit hole and actually participate in the world. So there's that aspect. And then we have another aspect. Since I come from production, we always do a short film and we pick different topics. But what I love about these, Tim, they're fan interactive.
That is cool.
So if you as the reader want to be in one of these, you can. I will I
cool.
always tell people what I'm looking for or what the theme is for the new short film. And then people can choose to either show up and film with me if you're local, or a lot of times people will film just on their own like cell phone or
Yeah,
something and
green
send it to
screen it
me.
in.
Exactly. And I put them in. So we did a commercial for the undead retirement community. We did a news report where I was interviewing people, asking about the conspiracy theories, what they think broke death. And this third one I'm working on right now is a psychological horror.
Yeah, they're very cool. And I will also, viewers, if you're watching this online, I will put the links in the comments so that you can get a closer look at some of Laurie's work. And it's really clever and inventive. And I just wish you all the success with your project.
Thank you. We have a fun time doing it. There's a blooper reel for the second one because there were so many people that came out and said crazy things for the conspiracy theories. We were cracking up. So that was a good time too. So there's one of those on my YouTube channel as well.
So we have the links to the Kickstarter. Where else can we find you?
Oh my goodness, I'm everywhere. I have a Facebook group, Path of the Pale Rider. That's where you're going to get like the most shenanigans. Like we do polls, we build song lists for the apocalypse. We talk about weapon choices and zombie films. All of that good stuff happens in the Facebook group. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. The same handle is at Path of the Pale Rider with an underscore between all the words. I'm on Twitter at Path Pale Rider. I have a website. It's www.pathofthepalerider.com. I've got a great blog that nobody reads. It's fantastic. But on the website is also a shop. So if you're missing something and we're not Kickstartering at the moment, that's a great place. People can always go purchase back issues or merch. It's always available there in case it's not, up and running at the moment. I'm also with Charter Comics. So if you go to chartercomics.com, a few of my books are available there. Any One World is a distributor of mine in the UK, so you can download there as well. I'm all over the place.
I know a couple of the Charter gang. So you're chapter mates with Richard Duray and Carissa Grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I love
Chris
those
Hayes
two.
and William Russell and
I only know those two. I'm sorry, they're the only two I met so far. But,
they're both good people. They're great.
Yeah, they're going to come online. Actually, Carissa's been on the show.
Yeah, she's great. I love her story. It's very supernatural, like Buffy meets Supernatural in Silent Hill is what I would call her story. It's called
she's
Redemption.
A lot of fun too. It's funny when you talk to her, you're going to get a lot out of her that you did not like. She doesn't look like this horrifying monstrous, like the story's pretty grim actually.
It is, and like she kills everybody, and she's got all these crazy animals that they fight, like hellhounds and zombie mermen, and what else? Giant salamanders she has in this one.
Well, we're going to see those
undead
two.
Anubis.
We're going to see those two on Thursday night. They're going to be on Creative Cranium. Cool. You should swing by, stick your head in. It'll be Charter night.
Yeah, and be like, I'm crashing.
Yeah, it's totally cool because you guys are all on the same label, so to speak.
True, we're all friends, and like Carissa and I talk every day. She's good people. Richard's great too. He's got a lot of cool ideas that are in the hopper, and I can't wait to see him do some of these things that he wants to do.
Well, and Laurie, I want to make sure that I say thank you to you for coming on the show. This was a really fun list, and I'm being dead serious when I say let's do the zombie one, because
yes,
you see what happens. We start to make the list, and then you have so much material. It's like enough for 2 or 3 of them, and this is the same
list.
Right. This is the same thing that happened with Carissa, by the way. So we will get together and we will do that. Just one last time before we go off the air, give us a quick shout out for your project, Path of the Pale Rider.
It's the rootinest, tootinest, wild western apocalypse zombie craziness that you will read ever. Come along for the fun and the shenanigans. You could read the comic, you can participate in the short films, and you can solve the riddles. It's kind of a trifecta of fun. Take it wherever you want to go. Come along.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Laurie. And viewers, if you'd like to get a closer look at some of these projects, I will put the links in the comments. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is an episode of Holden's 11. We'll see you guys next week.